The reaction to Trump going to McDonald's was fascinating to watch from here across the pond, because I can't think of a smarter stunt, frankly, given all the furore over whether Kamala ever did actually work at McDonald's. And honestly, from everything I've read, I don't think she did, because absolutely no one can remember her ever being there. But putting that to one side, he goes there and he does this stunt. But it's, McDonald's is such an iconic piece of Americana. It's the kind of all-inclusive place where everyone can afford to go there. Pretty much anyone could end up running a franchise if you work hard enough and you get a bit of luck and a fair wind behind you. And there he is in his hatch, having fries and fries, handing out packages. And yet all I saw from the left was a lot of scorn and mockery, as if somehow him doing this was something to be laughed at. I did not see it that way. I thought this was really smart politics by Trump. And actually what the Democrats should have done was just very quickly move on and find something better to talk about, rather than looking like they think this is somehow all rather demeaning, because that's not how regular Americans would have seen it. Discuss.
In this episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored, Piers Morgan goes crazy on David Pakman discussing the legitimacy of Kamala Harris working at McDonald's. They go back and forth throughout this episode and this clip, so let's go ahead and get into it and check it out, where I'll give you guys my opinion throughout.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I spoke about this 5 minutes on Monday and I've moved on. So I agree with you. I mean, I'm only talking about it now because you brought it up. I don't think it was as brilliant as maybe you're suggesting. That they closed down a store and hurt that store financially on that day in terms of sales. And Trump at the end of the day saw it as something to help him. If he had gone there, well, hold on a second. I'm one sentence in. If he had gone there and said, I put on the apron, I did the fry-o-later, and now I recognize that a $7.25 minimum wage, which has been the same almost 20 years, isn't going to cut it. That would have been really interesting and shown he cares about someone other than himself. Instead, it was about rehearsed drive-through and wearing the apron and pretending to know what's going on. I'm going to jump in. And it's Kamala Harris who said, I support a $15 an hour minimum wage.
David, are you familiar with the phrase clutching at straws? I hope that.
I'm sorry, you glitched. What's the phrase?
Does the phrase clutching at straws cross the pond in a way that you understand?
Piers, you brought this topic up. I'm clutching at nothing other than
you saying the only
lead.
way it could work would be if Trump banged on about the minimum wage. You're missing the point. David, the thing is, I want to play a clip from MSNBC. Obviously, you hate Trump with a pathological violence. But they went out and spoke to people in the street, and this happened.
Trump talks about this a lot. He says, Kamala Harris became black when it was convenient. Right.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about, do you agree with him on that? Do you feel like she's wearing her blackness?
Absolutely. When she's sworn into the Senate, it was as the first Indian American.
Thank you.
Which is, it's fine. We don't care.
We all know she's not black. Let's understand that. We are all clear of that. But my point of view, like I told you earlier, she's already been there. She's in office right now.
I mean, David, that's pretty devastating when you hear that for Kamala Harris, isn't it? They all think she's a bit of a phony who's basically using them as a community.
I'll be honest here. I completely agree with Piers Morgan's opinion on this matter. I mean, how do you have a whole community of your race and color that doesn't even accept you as their own? That's kind of a crazy and kind of, to be honest, as Piers Morgan mentioned, humiliating, especially for a president, right? Someone that's running for president, your whole community doesn't necessarily directly accept you. Of course, it might not be the whole community, but at least some people have this type of opinion based off that clip.
Those two people did say that, but if you look at any public opinion survey, this is not ranking anywhere. And there still seems to be confusion about the concept of being biracial. But no, I don't think that's really devastating at all. And in fact, I think that, I don't know what interviews Brandon's been watching, but she just did an interview yesterday with NBC where she was almost goaded by the interviewer. Why aren't you talking about being a woman and being black? And she said, people can tell what my identity is. I'm running on policy, and then people can judge the identity however they want. She's stepped away from identity politics, which I think is fantastic, by the way.
David, let me ask you this.
Politics as a cudgel.
David, let me ask you this. One of the things she stands for, along with Joe Biden, is she has done nothing while they've been in office to stem this, in my view, horrendously unfair situation of trans athletes competing in women's sport. And an astonishing survey has just come out today by the United Nations that reveals that female athletes have lost 900 medals to transgender rivals competing against them in women's sporting categories. This is a UN report. That's 600 female athletes in more than 400 competitions have lost nearly 900 medals in 29 different sports. When the average American sees that both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris now support this unfairness, and that's what it is. It's just unfair. It's nothing to do with being transphobic or anything else. It's just unfair. And when it's supported by a report like that from the UN, that's one of her problems too, is that people think they're supporting the indefensible.
Now, Piers Morgan here switches the subject and starts talking about the big issue in Olympic sports where transgenders are able to play on the other side. Now, he makes a very great point in this point of the argument, which is it is just quite literally unfair, right? And I think most of us watching this clip and just hopefully with our own opinions can at least say that having a gender mix in Olympic sports is just simply not fair. The genetics don't lie. Male and females are different in so many ways, and to make the Olympics be the Olympics and make sure it's fair for everyone, I personally believe it should remain separate. And Kamala Harris and Biden obviously don't see it that way, and that's what he's touching at here.
They lack basic common sense. What do you say to that?
I'm struggling to think that you're taking this any more seriously than as something that might generate clicks on YouTube, Piers.
Wow, you don't think that's serious?
Hold on, Piers, I can't even get a sentence out.
What, you don't think it's serious?
Hold on a second. The vast majority of those instances in the UN report are outside the United States and have nothing to do with the president or vice president of the United States at its face. And secondly, I would challenge you to tell me the quotes that Biden or Harris have put forward wherein they have weighed in on how sports leagues should be handling these decisions. But 92% of that study is not even in the US. So I don't even know why you're bringing this up other than
what's that got to do with the
principle
of the principle?
I'm sorry?
What's that got to do with the principle?
Well, the principle is you're saying Kamala Harris and Biden have come out in support of this.
They do. They support policies which actively protect. They support policies that protect transgender athletes performing in women's sport. And I think that is madness. You're saying, well, because most of these things in this UN report were outside of America, it doesn't matter. It does matter.
What I'm saying, it's a completely contrived issue that almost no one cares about in every single opinion poll.
Wow. You see, I think that's incredibly deluded. People do care about it. They care about the integrity of women's sport.
It just doesn't show up in any opinion poll as a primary issue. Not top 10, not top 20.
Out of interest, do you think...
They care about it, but it doesn't show up in a single poll.
What's your view? Do you think it's fair?
I think that it depends on the sport, and I think we need to talk about this for probably 90 minutes to really have a productive conversation.
David Pakman here completely dodges the question and doesn't directly answer and says, hey, we can talk about this another time. I'll be honest, I think David Pakman is one of those people who simply overcomplicates a lot of issues and saying, hey, it depends on the type of sport. No, it doesn't, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to sports, at least most sports are physical. And at the end of the day, humans, in terms of male and female, are different in physical manners. And in order to play by, fair rules and having fair competitions, they need to be separated. And I think that's an opinion that is not just, based off an opinion. It's based off science. It's based off, to be honest, facts. Now let's go ahead and see how Piers Morgan decides to respond to this.
Really? So when you saw the Paris Olympics and you saw 2 gold medal winners in women's boxing who actually were born with biological male chromosomes, you think that's right?
That is not the truth as far as I understand it. Really? I don't know who you're talking about. If you can name them, then maybe we can get into more detail.
Well, you know what I'm talking about. It was well publicized.
Well, tell me. Tell me who you're talking about.
I can't remember their exact names. There were 2 gold medal winners. Well, I can find them now if it helps you. I don't know why the names matter.
The one who was the source of a lot of viral articles was born a woman, always lived as a woman, and always competed as a woman. I'm sorry?
What was her name?
Imani something.
All right, so you don't know either. So don't be quite so patronizing if you don't know either. But the truth is...
Well, you're bringing it up, Piers. See, here's the thing. Hold on a second, Piers. Hold on a second. You do this all the time, Piers. You bring something up. And then you evaluate your guest's opinion as to how much it matters. You brought it. If it doesn't actually matter, don't bring it up.
No. Just to be clear, you were haranguing me for not remembering the name. I said the name's irrelevant. What's relevant is whether the gold medal winners have biological male chromosomes when they're getting into
My
a
understanding
boxing
is
ring
they do not.
and punching women in the face so hard that one of the women competitors, a female, quit after 45 seconds.
Yes,
because she'd
in
never
that
been hit that
instance,
hard.
there is nothing to the story that the boxer that prevailed was ever a man.
Wow.
Just nothing.
And yet you know
Nothing.
that they...
There's no evidence
you
of
know
it.
that
It was
you
a
know that
viral
boxer-
right-wing
well, hang
story
on.
based on nothing.
Hang on, you know that boxer was banned from the World Championships precisely because there is evidence. You know that, right?
Yes. Do you know the details of that, Piers? Do you know? Tell the full story. Go ahead. Tell the full story.
That boxer was banned, along with the other one, from the World Championships because it has been reported that they tested positive for male chromosomes, right? If you know better,
Yeah.
tell me.
That's not the full. I do know better, and I will tell you. That was done by a Russian lab who had an interest in disqualifying her because it jeopardized the undefeated record of a Russian boxer. It's just, that's all they have, and it's totally debunked. Piers, I thought you were better than this.
It's not debunked, and you'll regret saying that because it's true. Let me go to Kevin.
This is where we're going to end off today's video. They definitely keep going at it, but in terms of the actual context, this is the most that I saw, the most engaging part, the most, I think, important part. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. I personally think that Piers Morgan did make some very valid points. And in terms of David Pakman's argument, I don't really agree with any of the points that he made, especially when it comes to the trans section that he was talking about. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Put them down in the comments.